Hey everyone, it's Phil Chan back in the video, and today we're going to be diving into Witch 14 and giving you a composition in order for you to complete it. It's a relatively easier to obtain composition, but we're going to go ahead and go over the stats, the strategy, and let's jump into it. All right, so here is the comp. As you can see, we're using Hakrin, Santis, Yolanda, and Valyria. You could also use someone like Nathalia here. I prefer Valyria. It's a little bit easier to gear out my Valyria than my Nathalia, and that way I can gear out my Nathalia for something else. Either one works. We're going to showcase Valyria today because she's all geared out. Now, the stats are a little bit different than most other dungeons that you're actually going to run, and we're going to be running Yolanda, Hakrin, and Santis as very, very different builds than what they would normally run as well. So it is a little specialized. So if you are going to be farming Witch, then you're probably going to want to farm Witch for a long period of time in order to not swap the builds out all this time. But we're going to go and dive into the stats and talk about what the builds are and how you could build them, because there's two different ways you can build them, but this one I think is a little bit easier. Let's jump into it. So first up is Valyria, and Valyria here is in an avarice set. You do not need an avarice set, but it's going to be hard to get the stats required because you're going to need a lot more attack, a lot more crit damage. We have 3900 attack here, 280% crit damage, max crit rate of course, 176 speed, and some decent defensive and HP stats here. First thing is you need absolutely 176 speed at the minimum. The adds are at 175. You need Valyria to go before the adds. The attack and damage stats are honestly quite close to the bare minimum that you can actually run. You can go a little bit less, like 200 attack less, and still be fine here. But you do need that 176 speed, max crit rate, and quite high stats overall on Valyria here. Not too much different with Valyria's build. Pretty common Valyria build, as you see oftentimes. The next one we're going to talk about is Yolanda here. Now, Yolanda, only thing you need really for Yolanda in regards to speed is for her to go before Valyria so that she gives the attack up 2 buff to Valyria. Now, the HP and defense stats are actually a little bit low, and I have run this a little bit, but it's at about 90% win rate because my characters every once in a while will die. So we have 19.5k HP here, and 1600 defense, 183 speed, as I said before, going before Valyria, and then 153% resistance. Now, this is the optimal resistance amount. About 150% is when you start to pretty much resist everything that the Witch does. It's important to note that the Witch applies a few negative status effects, and the adds apply a few negative status effects. The left add applies the attack down. The boss will apply no positive effects and a bunch of bleeds. Now, you need high resistance or high speed in order to avoid the bleeds, or you can just tank it, but you would need a lot more stats. I highly suggest you go with resistance or a speed. It's going to be much, much higher stats in order for you to tank it if you do not have the resistance or speed. I will mention that with kind of avoiding the bleeds, you're going to need 220 speed in order to avoid the bleeds if you want to go with the speed route. But you're still going to tank that no positive effects. And if you're going to tank the no positive effects, you're probably going to want to run someone like Blackhorn. Yolanda with the resistance and everyone else with the resistance, you're going to be able to not get the no positive effects, which won't like disrupt the comp or anything. But more defensive stats on Yolanda. But I couldn't get it without, kind of messing up my resistance. I needed that 150% resistance. Next up is going to be Santis here. And Santis, you're going to want her to go first because you don't want to have to build focus on anyone else on your squad because you need to land the defense down spell. So she does need to go first. And you do want her to have the most attack on the squad. So Yolanda passes the bonus turn over to her once Valyria or Nathalia is dead. She's got 22.5k HP, 1300 defense. Again, the stats are a little bit low here on Santis. You would like a little bit higher. And then we have 89% focus. You really only need about 80%. Then you have 136% resistance. You're going to want to get that up to 150%. We still get affected by some negative effects as the boss kind of goes, or as we get into the deeper into the boss fight. So you want that resistance a little bit higher, but this is the best I could do with my stats. And then the last one is going to be Hakrin here. Hakrin's speed does not matter at all. You can run him as slow as possible. He's got like 0 speed here for me. He's going to have 18k HP, 3600 defense. You could get the defense a little bit higher. That would be nice in order to keep everyone else alive. Hakrin has almost never died for me, so Hakrin is at a fine tankiness level. So you don't really need to improve that. We have 132% resistance here, which again is a little bit low. And we have 42% focus, which is a little bit low as well. And if you get the focus up to max or up to 80%. It will make the run a little bit more consistent and also quicker because your Valyria won't die as soon. And we'll get to that in just a moment. But these are the stats on a Hakrin. Again, everyone above 150% resistance preferably. If you're going to go with the speed route, everyone above 220 speed, which is a lot of speed to get the tankiness stats. So I just recommend you go with resistance because it's much easier to get that resistance than it is to get the speed. So we're going to go and jump into a run here and just talk through the fight. Now, the reason why we're running Valyria is to get through the waves. And then the reason why we're going to run Santis, Hakrin, and Yolanda is to get through the boss fight. We're going to be running the Guy's Renewal and the Defense Down spell. And we're going to jump into battle here and just let the run go. And I'm going to talk through every single part of it. So obviously we're going to have Yolanda go and buff up Valyria after Santis applies the defense down. There's the buff from Yolanda in the bonus turn. Valyria's going to go ahead and ult. She's going to kill off the two side mini harpies and then get a bonus turn into her second skill here. And then we're going to have Hakrin go after the ads, start getting that max HP stacking so we can have max HP stacks when we get to the boss. The boss doesn't remove it, so it is very, very important to get those out. Valyria's going to go ahead and ult again. She's going to kill off both of those characters there. And then she's going to start the next turn with Yolanda. And Yolanda is not going to have the attack up too because she's going to kill off the ads. So this is where it gets a little tricky. And this is why you want the Hakrin to have 80% focus. Because Hakrin here will target the big ad no matter what. And if he has the 80% focus, he's going to land that taunt every single time. If he does not, he can miss the taunt sometimes. And you're going to take big damage. Now, Yolanda will always put up that shield right at that turn. So even if you get hit by the big ad, lots of damage, you should be fine. But it really just depends on how tanky your characters are. And that's one of the reasons why I would fail, is we would take too much damage. And then we wouldn't be able to heal it up by the time we got to the boss fight. And then right here, we're going to go right ad, left ad, as we could see here. Right ad, left ad. And the big reason for this is, first off, the right ad is applying a shield to the boss. And so we cannot have that shield on the boss. It will take too long to get through it. Second thing is we're going to take out the left ad because we do not want him to apply attack down. And we also do not want to take the extra damage that he's dealing on an AoE. If he applies attack down to my Santis here, she's going to go ahead and have less attack than Hakrin or Yolanda, which means that Yolanda will go ahead and pass that bonus turn over to someone that we do not want to get the bonus turn. You can see here that we're being applied negative status effects on Santis and Hakrin. Yolanda has been resisting every single thing so far. You can see the difference though. Valyria over here had 9 stacks of bleed, and then Hakrin and Santis had 1. So resistance still does help quite a bit, even at 130%. But you do want to get it to that magical 150%, so you're resisting every single debuff. As far as I saw, I've run, I want to say like 10 runs of this, and I had not seen Yolanda get affected by a negative status effect yet, but there's always a first time for everything. And so if you go ahead and have the tankiness and the resistance, you don't have to take out the left ad. You still have to take out the right ad in order for you to kill out the boss, because once the witch boss reaches under 50% HP, she starts to do massive damage. And I'll go ahead and showcase that once we get to that point. She starts charging up her orbs and starts smacking for more than 60% of your character's HP when we get to that point. What I'm going to do is go ahead and skip to that point because all we're going to do is take minimal damage here and get through the ads. So it's going to take a little while. This is a 6-minute run in order for us to complete it. So it might be a while before we get to that point. So I'll see you then. So we've just reached the point where the boss is under 50% HP. And you'll see here on this next turn, she's going to go ahead and start the turn, get lots of the lightning orbs right there. And then she's going to go ahead and smack us for, you can see here, about 30% of our HP on that hit at least. And this starts to do a lot of damage over the course of the battle, and it gets us very close to losing near the end, which is why it would be nice to have a little bit more tanky stats on your characters. Another thing to note is if you do bring your characters above that 215 speed mark where the boss actually is, you're going to go ahead and remove some of the lightning orbs that causes her to do so much damage. If she has less lightning orbs, she's going to do less damage. And so any attack that you're able to hit on her before she takes her turn is going to be a lot less damage. So if you can get Santis and Hakrin at least above, you're going to have it so that she only has the 3 lightning orbs instead of the 5. And that will help us win much, much more safely. But you can see here, we're not super worried about losing here. We have the guard buff. We have them at about 70% HP. And so there's going to be the end of Witch 14. So that is Witch 14. And hopefully that's going to be an easier comp for a lot of you to build out. The stats are quite high, but it is Witch 14, and there are quite accessible characters in that team comp. Most people are going to have everyone's going to have Hakrin and Santis. Most people are going to have that Yolanda because they've been saving from the guild vault. And then, of course, Nathalia is definitely a character that a lot of people have been looking out for and rerolling for. So hopefully that's going to be an easier comp for you all to build. I know there's been a lot of comps out there for Witch using Gangelo and Brand. I haven't really seen one that's more, you could say, free-to-play friendly. I had to build this one on stream yesterday. So hopefully that will help you out, and hopefully you'll be able to finish off Witch 14. That'll be it for this video, and I'll see you for the next one.